and you win. Woo! And when your son looks at you and says, Mama, look, you won, bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't. Because we're going to go in there and we're going to impeach the motherfucker.
Happy New Year! It's Friday, January 4th, 2019. Happy New Year! It's our very first show of 2019, and the year is already getting off to an amazing start. Welcome to Raging Chicken's Out to Coop podcast. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Each week I talk to our Capitol muckraker-in-chief, Sean Kitchen, about the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. In today's show, happy 2019, establishment Dems clutch their pearls over Rashida Tlaib's calls for impeachment.
It's not what she said, it's how she said it.
Elizabeth Warren makes it official. She's running for president in 2020. Already the talking heads and the Twitterati are deeply engaged in the emo prog primary. Let the perfect be the enemy of the good. If you must engage in the Bernie versus Warren sniping, at least check out David Dayen's article from the New Republic from last October. Please do that. And Nancy Pelosi is sworn in as a Democratic Speaker of the House. The first ever woman speaker takes up the gavel again. I can already hear the sss from sudden segments to the left. Another smear campaign against AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, falls flat on its face. And AOC wears white to her swearing-in ceremony. No, this is not a fashion commentary, but that was an effort to pay tribute to the suffragettes, like the women before her. And are old deal Democrats trying to squash progressive initiatives with PAYGO? Can we at least get through the first week before Dems decide to use Republican rhetoric to define their policies? A week? Can we at least do that? Try buying a house on PAYGO rules, by the way. Oh, sorry. You're going to have to cut to make up for that mortgage. Khanna, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Tim Ryan come out early against PAYGO and are encouraging other members to vote against it as well as a new rule. Indivisible groups, Medicare for All supporters, climate activists, and other progressives are not wasting any time letting Democrats know they will not be going away anytime soon. So if anybody thought that, hey, we're going to do a repeat of the Obama years when you win the election, then you go back to sleep, no. Those activists were at the doors of newly elected representatives, let them know they're not going anywhere because they're there for an agenda. But never fear, Terry McAuliffe gets launched into the talking head circuit to tamp down progressive universal policies like Medicare for All and tuition-free college. Today's PA Focus, Senate Republicans sat Lindsey Williams after voters went to their local Senate offices to demand that they seat her. House Republicans released their committee assignments on Wednesday, and Daryl Metcalfe is pissed that he didn't get on the House Judiciary Committee. Stop touching me. Instead, he's going to be sitting on the Energy and Environmental Resources Committee so he can kind of suck the tubes of the natural gas pipeline. And Governor Tom Wolf has booked the Roots for the inaugural ball. And it's going to be the farm show out there in Harrisburg. No worries, John Mysick is on the beat. Biggie, 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 biggie. Nothing but love for you, John. And today's last call, China lands on the dark side of the moon. China's robotic Chang'e, I think, 4 lander comes the first to touch down on the dark side of the moon on Wednesday night. The lander now sits on the floor of the 115-mile-wide von Karman crater, which apparently is pretty deep, so they're going to be studying the interior of the moon. Pretty cool. NASA's New Horizons spacecraft visited Ultima Thule, a Kuiper Belt object 4 billion miles away from the sun. That is now the most distant object ever to get a pass-by for man-made spacecraft. And Free Will's got a bottle release this week. It's Clifford the Big Red Quad. I'll give you a little taste of that as we come up. I want to remind everybody, tune in to The Rick Smith Show on Free Speech TV this and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can stream the show live at freespeech.org. You can also tune in on the Dish Network, DirecTV, or through the Free Speech TV app on Roku. And while you're at it, tune in to Rick's Daily Show from 9 to 11 every weekday, Monday through Friday at thericksmithshow.com. And be sure to download his podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And since it's 2019, let's keep the progressive future going. We need progressive media if we want that progressive future. You can support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today. Become a member of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month. Simply go to patreon.com/rcpress and choose your membership level. Not ready to become a member? No problem. Just go to ragingchickenpress.org, click on the big blue donate button on the right sidebar. But the best way you can help us out and make sure that we're going to be there right through 2020 and beyond is to become a member of Raging Chicken by going to patreon.com/rcpress today. So, Sean, man, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's been a while.
It has been a while. You have a good break? You have a good Christmas and New Year's and everything?
Yeah, I have. I've kind of been laying low for the past couple weeks.
Laying low? Well, you been in a basement somewhere or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. You did go home, though, right? Did you have a good time at home?
Yes, I went home. I was home for about 5 days. Was able to see my niece. She's, absolutely hilarious. Was able to go to Forest in Maine, got a 4-pack of one of their IPAs, had for, milked that out for a few days. And then I saw Vice with the Dick Cheney movie.
Oh, you saw it. How was it?
Yes. It was pretty good. It was a different setup. It was my first time seeing a Adam McKay movie.
Uh-huh.
Like the way he has it set up was different, weird to say the least, but it was actually pretty funny. And it makes Dick Cheney out to be the craven piece of shit that he really is.
Yep, there you go.
But they put a little bit of a laugh on it. So nothing like good old gallows humor.
Yes, exactly. No, look at him swing. Well, good. God, see, we could have put that in the on the last call today because you didn't tell me you saw that until just now.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to talk about it later.
Yeah. So
wild card.
Yes,
Charlie from It's Always Sunny. The wild card.
The wild card. There you go. Crazy. Well, man, I guess. I was going to mention a couple things that I don't really want to talk extensively about. But if you have anything to say about it, that's fine. Just to kind of right off the bat, yes, the government is still shut down, partially shut down today. The House Democrats have released. They are now in power in the House of Representatives. Have introduced a bill that would reopen the government. Does not provide money, not $1, for the wall. Most likely that's never going to get taken up in the Senate, and so it's not going to go anywhere. And if it does, Trump said he's going to veto it without any wall funding. That's all going on right now. If you want to know all the drama and the back and forth about what's happening with the government shutdown, tune into your cable news channel today. But what I thought I think it's actually a good thing that Nancy Pelosi's like, listen, there's going to be no wall funding at all in any of these bills. She was actually funny about it. Did you hear, one of the reporters basically said to her, like, in a press conference, like, well, Trump says he's not going to sign it. And, is that, so you're saying there's not going to be $1 for it. She's like, I don't know, maybe $1. Maybe we could go. It was actually hilarious, right? Because he's like, she gave that back as a line. Well, maybe $1, kind of like, yeah, maybe we can compromise on that. I can give him $1. But.
And did you see what Nancy Pelosi did yesterday with the inviting Donald Trump for the State of the Union address? Did you see this or not?
I did not see that.
So obviously she has to send a letter inviting Donald Trump to get the State of the Union address. And she starts off the letter with some really good shade. She says, the Constitution established the legislative, executive, and judicial branches as co-equal branches of government to be a check and balance on each other. The Constitution also calls for the president to from time to time, give the Congress information of the State of the Union. That's pretty much what she first, said.
There you go.
Basically saying, here's my letter, and a little bit of some little shade thrown in there.
So, and does it say later on in the letter? So just so you know, as a check to your State of the Union, I will be having the button that will shut off your mic at anything that you say that is inappropriate. That'd be funny. No, but it's been kind of an exciting week, right? I mean, it's been you see all these swearing in ceremonies. You got the most diverse Congress in history. You got, I forget the numbers.
Not the most diverse Congress.
I mean, diverse House of Representatives.
Well, we shouldn't even say that because we're giving the Republicans too much credit here. We have the most diverse Democratic caucus in history because
fair enough. Fair enough.
Republicans just hired a bunch of old white people.
Well, and
this past election.
And I don't think that it's ever been more clear than if you actually looked at the entire room during those ceremonies, right? Is that you had, like, you looked at the Democratic caucus and it was America, right? I mean, it was, it was incredibly diverse, right? Still there's not equal number of women, but there are way more women, right? And just in terms of you could see in the color, right, of people's dress, right? People were wearing different stuff. It was it felt vibrant. And then you looked over on the Republican side of stuff, and it was dominated primarily by blue and gray suited old white men, right? And now there were a few women in there. There are a few women over there, but it was nothing like you saw on the Democratic side of things. So that's a good check, Sean.
Yes. Also you had, I don't know her name off the top of my head, Rep. Oman out of, I think she's in Detroit or no? Somewhere out in the Midwest.
Michigan, I think.
No, Minnesota. Or Minneapolis.
Minnesota. Okay.
Because she took over, I think she took over, seat? Keith Ellison's, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think so,
But she had a headdress on, and a traditional Arab headdress on. You had Rashida Tlaib in a traditional Palestinian dress. I mean, the fact you're seeing that on the House floor is, really amazing.
Well, and the first ever American Indian representatives, right?
Yes, wearing their traditional dresses. And
exactly. And there was pictures from I can't remember what outlet it was, but I saw it on Instagram. So she had she was there with her daughter, I guess, with her moccasins on, kind of made by her tribe and things like this. So that was really cool to see. Yeah, I don't know. I thought seeing some of the postings that these newly kind of elected representatives were putting on Instagram was some of the most moving that I've seen, right? Because you saw pictures of family, you saw pictures of generational families, right? That this was not something that they just were seeing as sharing for just something just for themselves, but as part of a long tradition, right? And it was moving.
And also another good thing is how many of these women that were elected to office or people that were sworn in yesterday, how many of them would never have considered running if Clinton would have won in 2016?
That's a really good point.
Yeah. I mean, if there's one thing that Trump has done with the Democratic Party, it's made the Democratic Party more diverse, and it's made the Democratic Party more progressive.
Yeah.
Substantially more progressive.
Well, and what's really interesting about it is I don't know if you heard Sharice Davids, right? Where she was talking about what it meant to be elected from Kansas, because Kansas is that's Koch brothers country, right? And is quote unquote super conservative. And she comes out there and she's openly gay, right? She's Native American, right? She's a lawyer, that went through Cornell Law School after kind of making her way kind of out from kind of really a lower middle class family, and that for her to be standing there from Kansas was amazing, right? And to see her and Deb Haaland, right, kind of embrace on the floor, and to see them kind of in tears together was just incredible. I don't know. I'm kind of stuck on that because that was for me, it was one of the most moving moments of the entire day.
Yeah, no, it was a very interesting day yesterday, and we also with how the highs of yesterday's swearing in, there was also some controversy afterwards.
Some controversy? Was there controversy?
I think so.
It isn't so, Sean.
Rashida Tlaib used a very profane word to, say we're going to be impeaching Donald Trump. Or the motherfucker.
Whichever you want to say.
But, right, these were people were elected to do, right? I think it's become very clear that impeachment is going to be a very real possibility over the past month, especially with the releasings of the Mueller investigation, the releasings of what's been happening in the Southern District of New York. Impeachment is going to be a very real possibility within the next 2 years. And, this is what they were elected to do. They were elected to go there. They were elected to investigate. They were elected to subpoena the Trump administration, the Trump family, and do all these other, things. And, Rashida Tlaib was speaking at the Move On thing, and it's like, yeah, like impeachment of Donald Trump is now a real possibility.
Right. And like,
it's not just like a far left, or a progressive possibility.
Right.
No, this is you now have more moderate Democrats who are saying that, either we're going to be voting him out through the electoral process, or, we must consider impeaching him in the House.
Right, and let's run this through, because like Adam Schiff, right, who's now ahead of the what committee is he over now? He's the I'll have to look it up.
Not judiciary.
It's not judiciary, right? It's
intelligence, House Intelligence.
Maybe he's one that basically has been part of the hearings, right? He was kind of like the Democrat representative of the hearings, and now he's going to take over those hearings. And he said, like, was on the Chris Hayes show last night, basically saying, hey. Now that we're here, that there's all this information that we got from the testimonies that the Republicans refused to release. So one of my first orders of business is we're going to be handing all this stuff over to the Mueller investigation, so they have the transcripts, right? And secondly, we're to call back those people that refused to testify, or that were kind of a little sketchy there on the truth. And if we don't get certain records, like tax records and things like this, we're going to subpoena them. Yeah. Right? So I mean, that is all that fits right in there. And then you've got Nancy Pelosi saying, like, her even basically saying, look, I don't think the jury is out on whether or not you can kind of indict a sitting president. Yes, there's been some memos on that, but they don't necessarily have the force of law. So you have Democrats that are considering, are considering impeachment and considering kind of like indicting the sitting president.
And, we should have. I mean, this would have been, and you know what? Like, we had an opportunity in 2006 and 2007, and really afterwards, to impeach or punish or charge the people in the Bush administration with war crimes for what they did with the Iraq War. It was a total and complete fabrication. It's been proven fact. We knew it then, and the Democrats and Nancy Pelosi dropped the ball on that. And Obama dropped the ball on that afterwards, saying, we're going to look forward, and we're not going to, pursue prosecutions of these people for war crimes, which they should have been tried for war crimes. There are people in the Bush administration who should be sitting in jail right now. And George W. Bush and Dick Cheney are two people who should be sitting in jail right now for what they did in Iraq. It's up to us to make sure these mistakes aren't repeated now with Trump.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
I mean, because I feel like a lot of this could have been avoided. Like, trajectory of time, that path of trajectory of time could have been changed if Democrats stood up and punished the people who are responsible for Iraq, and punished them and impeached them or put them on war crime trials for what they did. And instead, we decided to look the other way.
Yeah.
And then we looked the other way with the banking crisis. We decided not to jail any of the bankers. This stops now.
Yes.
This is not going to happen again because of the movements that are out there, the Indivisible movements. And, it's time, blood's on their fucking hands, and it's time to start, it's time for retribution.
Yeah. Well, and let's kind of like talk. Here's one of the things I want to frame a couple of our kind of points of discussion for, especially in the national picture today, is that there's all this back and forth that's going on. I mean, you heard what Rashida Tlaib said, she was in our kind of intro today. Those comments, let's impeach the motherfucker, right? And it's been all this kind of back and forth, right? First, it got circulated all sorts on Twitter. It went crazy. And now you've got all these kind of more establishment Democrats basically kind of saying, oh, that was inappropriate. She shouldn't have said this, and blah, 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 blah. And I want to put a couple things in context. So, like, one, you and I were talking about this before the show today, is that, like, one, her comments were not made on a Sunday talk show, right? They were made in a celebration with supporters,
a private party.
Right? At a party, right? And if you watch that video, or even just listen to the sound from today, you can hear the reaction in the room. Right? There have been people, and let's be clear, there have been Democrats all over the place that basically said we should impeach him, we should impeach him, we should impeach him. Maxine Waters has been one of the strongest voices out there, has been saying that for a long time. Lots of progressive communities have been moving for impeachment. I think we can debate whether or not kind of impeachment is the best political move at this point, right? But let's just put a hold on that, right? Because we got to remember, you impeach him, and if you get rid of him, then there's Mike Pence, right? So we've got that kind of dynamic there. And I'm not saying that therefore don't impeach him. Don't get me wrong, but the fact is, there's a lot of people out there that want this guy impeached because they just cannot stand him. And for her to come back and say that and represent the anger that is out there, right, is so important for building a political movement. So you've got these Democratic insiders who are basically trying to kind of like, that is kind of like, that's not how we do things here, and blah, 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 and she shouldn't have said that, and kind of trying to kind of, squash her for this is crazy. Now, look, Rashida Tlaib is not going to be squashed. Let's just put it that way. Okay. So you guys can say whatever the hell you want, but we should remember that part of the way she got her political start was like, she was like, from a couple of years ago now, she was at a Trump rally, right, where she was shouting him down while he was on stage, right? And she was dragged out by police. Right, so that was an early moment, right, right, in her political career, and she's connected to those groups of activists. She's not going to shut up, right? So I think we should be clear about that. But I'm saying, I want to talk to those folks, those kind of establishment Democrats, like, what's your agenda in trying to kind of push down the passion and retreat to this kind of like dispassionate, remove, technocratic way of speaking about stuff? If we've learned anything, right, since the 2016 election, it should be that we need movements. And to keep the movements alive, you're going to have this kind of stuff, right? And people are going to be angry, and we should not be afraid of that anger. And the last thing we should do is try to kind of push it away. And
it's also the rhetoric behind this, too. I mean, imagine if Democrats used this type of fight back rhetoric, mainstream Democrats, political leaders use this fight back rhetoric in states like Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan. Like those Rust Belt states, working class people want that type of fight back rhetoric. It resonates with them. Like language is important for your base and for your movement. And that type of language, yes, it might be a little salty for some to think about, but that language resonates with people, and that's important. And it's, imagine if people like we had more of that fight back rhetoric, not just dropping F-bombs all the time, but more aggressive, assertive rhetoric.
Exactly.
Within the Democratic Party. Do you think we would have lost these states that we've lost? We spent years losing Democratic voters. People, working class people, abandoning the party because the Democratic Party has become a party of technocrats and a party of liberal professionals and a liberal elite, like college graduates and stuff like that. And where we've, it's the person we saw at the Keystone Progress Summit a couple years ago, when he basically said that, like, yeah, this is the type of stuff like Dave Frank or whatever, or I can't.
Thomas Frank.
Thomas Frank. This is the type of rhetoric that he was talking about. Like this, when the Democrats made that shift, losing, working class voters for liberal, for like elites, professors, and stuff like that. I mean, they wrote off a whole entire swath of the population.
Right.
And like this is the rhetoric that they resonate with.
Well, let's take it one.
That.
Well, yes, but let's take it one step further, because it's not just about kind of working class, like white working class thing. Because a lot of times when we're talking about working class, not just you and I, I'm not saying that you and I, but a lot of times when working class is invoked, really you're talking about white working males, right? But I'm not talking about that. But let's say yes, I think you're absolutely right about that. But then let's look at what's happened during the Trump administration. Right? You've had a man who's an admitted sexual assaulter in the presidential office now, right? In the Oval Office. You've got a Supreme Court justice that was appointed who's kind of sexually assaulted a woman.
Accused rapist.
Right? Exactly. You've had a near constant assault on women's rights. Now, let's say you imagine you came from an immigrant community, right? You came from an immigrant community, and you watch what Donald Trump has been doing, right, at the border. You watch the kind of like at the increase in hate crimes that have been unleashed since he's come into office because of his rhetoric. You talk about African American communities, right, who are kind of been at the literally at the other end of the gun, right, for decades as police harassment has considered. And then you got all this built up anger based upon even just the past 2 years, right? And then what does it mean to turn to those people who are so angry and said, I need you to calm down and be rational and talk
and
calm
civil.
And civil. That is like that's the recipe for disaster. You have to be able to let movements express themselves. And the fact that you've got representatives in Congress now who are doing some of that is actually going to bring back some faith in the governing process, right? The fact that we can do things, that our people are going to be there.
And faith in the Democratic Party.
Well, and faith in the Democratic, if they follow through. But if you have, like, for example, the new chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Jerry Nadel, right? He's automatically starts, hey, it's too early to start talking about impeaching Donald Trump, right? Wants to kind of say he disagreed with other lawmakers who are already kind of advocating for that, right? Okay, let's say that he's got to play that card. What it's going to take, if people really want to kind of consider impeachment and stuff like that, it's going to take people pushing him in the right direction, right? And if that party can, and if he consistently resists that, if Nancy Pelosi would consistently resist that, and guess what? Those are the people that get primaried the next time around, right? I mean, that's got to be the message going forward, that the movement can push forward. The movement should push, and part of that is going to be expressed in their language. So look, we can argue about what's the kind of appropriate thing to say, but come on, if you're going to kind of try to discipline her, Rashida Tlaib, for saying that to her supporters at a celebration, then maybe you need to reconsider how you're kind of conceiving of the party. Because that's great. And I have to say, this is the other part of it that's, again, I think we need to be thinking carefully about where we're going to stake our claims on this stuff, because this is also getting played out with Elizabeth Warren's announcement that she's going to be running for president in 2020. Right? Is that she comes out with an announcement, she releases a video right out of the gate. Right? She's not waiting. She wants to get out early. And then already you see kind of Twitter and social media and talking heads kind of explode about whether or not she can win, and is she the best choice, and I don't know if she's going to be able to handle Donald Trump and all this. And I'm like, this is all based upon nothing. And half of it is simply kind of like emotional leftover shit from the 2016 election that people are replaying out. Right? If we want to be smart about our politics, if we want to be smart about moving forward, right, we have to let some time for this stuff to develop, right? And let's see who the most progressive candidate is going to be, right? Look, and I'm not sitting here saying that therefore I'm a supporter of Warren, right? I'm saying I like a lot of what she does, and no, she's not. For all you Bernie folks out there, like, I voted for Bernie, Sean voted for Bernie, like, we're pro Bernie, right? No, she's not as progressive as Bernie on a lot of things, right? But they are a team and they work closely together. And what happens then if Bernie decides not to run, right? If Bernie decides not to run, then you just kind of check out? No, you have to start thinking carefully about this. Stein. Well, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Is that what happens here? Are we going to learn nothing about this? Let's remember, we've got Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? Maybe like on the edge of superhuman, but she's not immortal. All right, we've already had 2 Supreme Court justice appointments from Donald Trump, which has moved the court far to the right. And now you have political operatives sitting on the Supreme Court. Right? That alone has to give you pause and think about what's going forward. Right? For anybody who gives half a crap about Roe v. Wade, about your right to organize, right? About kind of like access to health care, right? I mean, then you better damn well sure be thinking very strategically here, not just based in kind of like, I'm going to vote and organize in a way that makes me feel good. That's selfish, folks. We got to think strategically, we got to think concretely, and we got to think collectively here. And so, look, Warren is out. That's the official launch of it. That kind of ticks the box. Now we know that she's definitely going to run, right? She's staking out that lane, right? In a progressive lane. If you listen to her video, we'll see if Bernie steps in, and we're going to see who else kind of comes in this campaign. Like, I'm waiting to get surprised. Right? I'm waiting to see kind of who's got the machine to make it work, because it's not just going to be personality. It's also going to be organization. So let's see. Right? And I know there's a lot of people out there that are kind of already kind of in the pro or anti Beto camp. Right? And let's just remember the last time that we had a kind of a well-spoken
shiny toy.
What's that?
Shiny toy.
Well, I wouldn't call Obama a shiny toy, right? But I think that a lot was invested in Obama's language because he was such an incredibly gifted communicator, right? That when he would give speeches, they would, made people feel part of something, right? He was brilliant at that. But he was not like the most progressive president out there, right? Is that
banks go and stuff like that, and
right? There was a lot that was projected onto Obama that Obama didn't deserve. Like, frankly, and if he wasn't such a gifted speaker, I think people would have looked a little bit more carefully at some of his policies and been a little bit more prepared to kind of push him once he got into office, right? But really, by the time people started figuring that all out, he's like, into his like second or third year of his first term, and you have already had the Tea Party revolution, right? So Beto O'Rourke has got a similar dynamic going on. The guy is dynamic. He's amazing. He was able to do things in Texas that had never been done before. I know the Democrats have had their eye on Texas for a long time, and they think that this may just be the turnkey that opens up that state. But let's let this stuff play out. We've got to look at who's going to have the policies and the platform to move forward. And, Sean and I have been talking about this all last year. So, if we're going to look at candidates, we should be saying, like, what are some of the few things that we need to have here? We need to have one, Medicare for all. That should be just a gimme, right? We should have free college tuition. What's that?
Free public higher ed.
Free public higher ed. That should just be a gimme, right?
And free public higher ed is a compromise to free college tuition. Like, it's, not this like means tested bullshit. Like,
right.
It's no, like we should be on par with the rest of the world. This isn't like some big pie in the sky type of ideas. No, like these are what, every other country has.
Right. And this is the kind of thing that, I think what the political classes want to do is they are depending on the fact that most Americans aren't paying such close attention to this stuff. Right. But they kept saying, well, they make it this like, oh, this is this crazy idea that's never happened before, when in reality, this is something, just as you said, this has been a tried and true, kind of normal thing that has been happening in the rest of the developed world. Right. The rest of the, so this is not something that's crazy. Right. We kind of stand alone in not providing our citizens health care. Right? Not access to affordable health care, as Terry McAuliffe would say. We're going to talk about him in a second. Right? That language, anytime you hear access to health care, what that means is they do not want to give it to everybody. Right? Anytime somebody says we want to provide opportunities for X, Y, or Z, they're saying that we're not going to guarantee it. This is not going to be a right. This is going to be something that, you have a chance to get. Right? And that is an unequal way of kind of approaching things forward.
And it's also like this like Medicare 55 type of stuff I've seen people come out with. No, we fought for Medicare for all, for universal health care, and there's nothing universal about Medicare 55.
No, but look, here's the difference.
It's a very progressive idea, and having that type of insurance at that age, yes, will benefit people tremendously. But it's like, you're already moving the goalposts if you're talking about this now.
Well, but it depends how you're talking about that, right? I want to be careful about this too as well, because Medicare 55, right? So if Medicare 55 is the end game, then I'm on board with you 100%. However, if Medicare 55 is a step towards Medicare for all as part of a comprehensive package, then that's a good thing. Because here's why. Because what happens if that you extend Medicare down to you can kind of basically go on Medicare when you're 55 instead of 65, right? Basically, what that means, that's also when health costs start to kick in, right? That's also when you start to have people start using their health insurance a lot more, right? Simply because we all age and Medicare medical coverage gets more expensive, or medical care gets more expensive as you get older, right? Because you're using it more often. So basically, what that would do is that would bring down the cost, right, overall, to everyday people who hit that 55 threshold. That would bring the cost overall, and right, it expands Medicare's purchasing power, right? So then you've got to step in that kind of direction where you're easing your way towards that next step. So if I would say Medicare 55, sure, that's fine, but then when's Medicare 45 kick in? When's Medicare 35 kick in? Right. So say, for example, if you had at the same time Medicare 55, right, and then you had an insurance coverage to 30, instead of 25, right? Or 35, like you could stay on your parents' insurance or something like this, that would close that gap. That might be a way if you get a little closer. Personally, I think you shoot the moon and then you go back from there. You start with Medicare for all, period, right? And then you move forward. And then a Medicare 55 becomes a step, that's fine, right? So I always become a little bit skeptical when people are starting from Medicare 55, right? I think you should start from Medicare for all, and that should be the threshold. Not access to affordable health care, even though that is a consultant-tested, poll-tested language that Terry McAuliffe and other the kind of centrist Dems are using. People support Medicare for all, right? People support Medicare for all. And people think when you say affordable access to health care, they think that's what you mean. But we should be smart enough at this point to know that that's not what it is, right? When you say affordable access to health care, basically you're saying you have some rules and regulations that are going to prop up the private insurance agencies. That's what that means. So anyways, so let's let some of this play out. Let's not kind of let like perfection, right, and purism kind of negate the practical reality of politics. I don't think we can afford to play ideological games here. I think we need to be incredibly practical. And matter of fact, if you actually look at the people that on the left, right, like people in DSA, like some of the folks from Jacobin, for example, right, even that are considered on the far left, if you listen to listen to them talking about their strategy, they're incredibly practical. Right? They know it's not an all or nothing kind of stuff. You can have your ideological arguments, that's fine, but when it comes to the kind of political organizing and the kind of electoral politics, you gotta play pragmatically, right? And always be going for that next horizon.
And it's also the type of thing where, like with Warren, she also brings the track record with her of fighting for regulatory powers like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and making sure that people aren't getting screwed by the markets. It's not like she's a like third way type of Democrat that's running for office here. She's very progressive to the left of like most of the party.
Right. It's like, but what's going to get under, I'm telling you right now, and you know this already, what's already going to get under people's craw is the fact that when we just asked that question, right, she says that she's a capitalist. Right, so there's going to be a segment of the left that are going to say, see, she's a capitalist, and that's the end of the story. They will hear nothing else at that point. That is a dangerous place for the left to be.
And there's a lot of people on the left already still blaming her for costing Sanders the primary election by not endorsing.
It's just that's absurd. It's absurd.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to go into all the reasons why that's absurd. Right. It's just. If people really want to know, send me an email at ragingchickenpress@gmail.com, and I'll explain to you why that's fucking crazy. Right. But that's just no. And we can't afford to be in that place, like I said. And let's remember here too as well. Right. Elizabeth Warren, right, is basically single-handedly kind of like put together the Consumer Protection Agency, right? That was her baby that she brought forward. She has spoken about the need to rein in the banks and Wall Street more than any other Democrat who's been out there, other than Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders has been saying this since he was 3, I think, right? But she is not a bad candidate, right? She is not bad when it comes to policy. Now, politically, we'll see what kind of organization she's got. Right. I'm in the camp that whole thing about releasing genetic testing stuff and all that kind of thing. I think that was a bad move. That was a political fumble. Right. And that has me concerned not about whether or not she's a good candidate, but whether her organization is up to the task. We'll see. We'll see it say out. Hopefully they learn their lessons from that. It's like, I understand what they were thinking in their heads. Right. But that tells me that they're too much in their heads.
It's also, there's a lot of people saying that because of the Native American issues that's just going to kneecap her with Trump. And look at this story. That was an Oppo dump from the Boston Tribune, right? The really conservative Boston Tribune.
So. Yeah.
Yes, in 2012, that her opponent was using Scott Brown.
Scott Brown, yeah,
was using, yeah. was using, and it's like people are already saying, well, like she's not going to be able to win because of that, and it's like, okay, and like you're already saying, like people are writing off Bernie Sanders can't win because he's a socialist, and like so and so can't win because of this, and it's like, you like either way, like the Republican strategy is just to
tear down.
They couldn't tear down Nancy Pelosi. I mean, they were successful in tearing down Hillary Clinton, but I think we've learned from that.
Well, let's see, because look, no matter which candidate comes out there, here's what you got, because of what you're saying here, the Republican playbook is to tear down, make shit up, go after them, like defame people, do whatever you can to win. Doesn't matter. Truth be damned. Right. So that's going to be what we're going to do. So like now, for those folks who want to say that like we can't have Warren, that we got to have Bernie. Well, what do you do then with right now that say Bernie Sanders had to come out and apologize, right? Because there were some kind of people who worked on his campaign have come forward and said, look, that they had complaints of sexual harassment on the campaign, not by Bernie Sanders, right, but in the campaign, and that those allegations or those kind of claims were not addressed adequately. Right. So those things are coming forward now. Right. And so you're telling me that's not going to be an issue on the campaign? I don't care if you think like, look, he's come out, he's done the right thing. Even so, right? If you're going to say that because of this thing about, the genetic testing and Native American stuff, that's alone will disqualify her, then you got to say the same thing about this when it comes to Sanders. Right? You got to say the same thing. Well, Bernie Sanders didn't. Well, too bad. It's going to be a political issue. Right? That's just what I mean about we got to think smartly about this stuff. If you're going to apply some sort of like weird ass litmus test that like if somebody's got like something that is talked about negatively in the press and that is going to disqualify from the office, then you got to go right across the board. That means anybody who's not pure, once again, is going to lose. And that's a losing strategy right there. So we got to think again about organization, and on the ground campaign stuff. Right? Just saying. Oh boy. Well, it's good news that we've got at least we've got AOC, right? At least we've got AOC.
Yeah.
She had a pretty good week, I think, Sean.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, where should we start? It's going to be fun trying to watch the Republicans tear her down over the coming years. Mm-hmm. They tried to release a dance video she made back while she was in college on some sort of like rooftop, mm-hmm. and it fell flat on its face. And there was videos of her yesterday. Ryan Grimm posted a video on his Twitter account of AOC going through the hallways of Congress. Mm-hmm. And having security guards and the workers in the Capitol stopping her, hugging her, and thanking her for what she's doing. These are people in their 50s and 60s stopping her and said, thank you. Like a grown man was like, I'm from Brooklyn, I'm from the Bronx, I'm from, it's like she's going to have that type of power that's going to be wielding with her.
Yeah, and she doesn't quite have that sway over the Republicans, though, apparently.
No, she doesn't. And who cares about that? There was issues with the PAYGO. We could talk about this, I guess.
Well, let's pause on this for a minute because I was wanted to say here's like a couple of thoughts. That one you just talked about the one video, right? That Ryan Grimm posted, right? There's that one moment. There's the other moment where in her swearing-in ceremony, after that when she votes for Nancy Pelosi, right? You were saying like again she gets booed by the Republicans, right? And then she goes to social media. What did she say?
Oh, you hate me because you ain't me.
Yeah, right, exactly. And it's like, her response to that. The dance video is another one where you see this shows you the huge gap in terms of the people working on Republican campaigns and where the country is at right now, right? Because you're telling me they thought that releasing a dance video that she did in college, like on a rooftop, is some sort of like, thing. And it's not like nothing.
Salacious oppo.
No, I mean, but like, there's nothing like, it's not like.
It's a childish like video of someone having fun, a teenager having fun.
It's like you and your friends got up and you wanted to make a little dance video for some sort of class project. That's what it looked like to me, right?
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like she was like, scantily clad or anything like that. Just like it looks like a college kid, Boston University shirt on, right, whatever. And they thought that was something that was going to, I don't know, be bad.
Make her look goofy.
And instead, what happens, right? I mean, somebody takes it, they turn it into a video for Medicare for All, right?
Yeah, if anything, it makes her more personable,
right?
With like people in the Democratic Party who may not be on her side because she's too radical for them.
Right.
Oh, here's this kid that's like, this 29-year-old woman who's actually knows how to have fun and a good time. She's a regular human being. It humanizes her.
Right. Exactly. So, there you go. So, I mean, I think all that kind of stuff, and the fact that she was, she chose to wear white to her swearing-in ceremony, recognizing that there's a tradition of women who have kind of come into the House and the Senate and Congress who wear white like the suffragists did, right? Who fought for the right to vote, right? As a way of kind of like paying homage to the shoulders that they stand on, right? I mean, it's like just so kind of, I don't know, connected to kind of the history of progressive politics in this country, right down to that moment, especially someone who's been so scrutinized, right? The right has tried to scrutinize her for her dress and the way she looked, all this kind of stuff, for her then to kind of take on that mantle and say, okay, I'm going to make a statement here too as well. I'm glad to see it. But yeah. So yeah, we should maybe close out with some Pago talk. Because I think that this if you have one task to do, this is one task. So Pago, Sean.
I mean, yes, it's a very wonky thing, and I think it's a shitty rule and something we shouldn't be talking about. But it's also, it looks like that, earlier today, Yeah, it's a shitty rule, and it looks like that the progressives are now getting assurances out of this, where Pago will not be used for their, at least they've had handshake deals, granted as you may be, but they will not be using Pago to go after stuff like Medicare for All and the Green New Deal, and it looks like that stuff might actually have a revived path. Ocasio-Cortez tweeted this morning that, Speaker Pelosi promised every House committee with 40% of progressive caucus members, and that they're going to get their first secured hearings on Medicare for All.
Yep.
I mean, that right there is a big deal. Like, the fact that, like, you're going to be having a hearing on Medicare for All is extremely important because that's where it begins.
Yep.
Like, and we'll see if this happens because overwhelming majority of the Democratic caucus has signed on to the Medicare for All bills over the past couple of years.
Right. This is where the rubber hits the road. And this is where, I was so glad to see.
Now you have to put up the votes. It's put up or shut up.
Right. That's exactly right.
It's a lot different than just putting your name on a bill.
Exactly. And this is exactly like, for example, why, well, here, we'll step back a little bit. This is kind of why it was so good to see Indivisible groups, Medicare for All supporters, and climate activists and stuff like this showing up in the Capitol this week, right? It's to remind all those Democrats who basically, when they were out of power, right, and they saw that the progressive winds were coming, to kind of sign on to these Medicare for All bills, right? Now those very representatives are now having people show up in their office like, hey, remember what you said. You voted for this stuff, and then we expect you to kind of, now that you're in the majority, to move on this, right? So that's really, really important. The Pago thing, why this is important, right? Pago, here's the wonk part of it. All basically it means that, okay, if you're going to propose any legislation, right, anything that's going to cost something, that has to be offset by either taxes or cuts, right? And it makes sense, right, at the abstract level. Oh, you should pay what you do.
But budgeting on the government is not budgeting a household item.
No, but even if
deficits aren't bad.
Well, okay, let's even take that out. Let's start from the common sense and let's move out from that, because you're absolutely right. But let's start from the common sense, right? This would be like going to say you're going to buy your first ever house, right? And you go in the house and you see this house and say the house costs, I don't know, $150,000, $200,000, let's say, even $200,000. House costs $200,000, right? You want to move in this. So what do? You go to the bank, you get approved for a mortgage, right? What's a mortgage? Deficit spending. Right. So you basically, if you want to go out, if you were to follow this in your own family, you basically say, well, if we want that house, right? We can't take out a mortgage for that, right? Because we take out a mortgage for that, that means that's spending money we don't have. So we have to offset that with cuts, right? Where are you going to cut in your budget to equal that $200,000, right? That's what they're talking about. Or do you go out and you have to take on 3-4 other jobs until you can pay for that in cash? That's crazy, right? We don't operate that even in our everyday lives. But as Sean says, let's move out to the next circle. As Sean says, deficit spending is not bad. How do you think we got out of the Great Depression, right? Even if you look at what happened with the bailout of the auto industry, for example, which all got paid back, right? If you were under PAYGO rules, you couldn't do that, right? Without cutting Medicare, without cutting Social Security, without cutting all these other things, right? Because it's kind of cost things. At the same time, the Republicans, they basically they say, oh, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, social programs, those cost things. Tax cuts, those are in a world by themselves. Anytime it comes up to tax cuts, like the $1 trillion tax cuts they just passed there, right? Those are just kind of, okay, we're going to waive PAYGO stuff for that stuff. When we can give money to the rich, we're not going to count that as an expenditure. Right? So that's how it works.
Or when we're going to inflate our overinflated military budget.
Or we're going to go to war, right? If we're going to go to war, we don't need to pay for it. We're just going to we're going to be able to do it forever, and that's fine. Right? That's how the Republicans operate. So, but the thing is, anytime that you're going to have a bold, kind of comprehensive program, right, it's going to cost money, right? And the dividends don't come back immediately, right? And, I think that, I don't know if it was Khanna basically came out right away, posted a video and said, this is why PAYGO is bad. And basically saying, look, this is people putting budgets over people. Right, that's going to be the priority. When we all know that if you budget in over time, that we know Medicare for all is going to save people money, right? But more importantly, right, it's going to save lives, right? So that's what you do, right? What this PAYGO is designed to do is to put a downward pressure on any progressive attempts to kind of have big, bold programs. If you want a Green New Deal, guess what? It's going to cost money, and it's going to take time to shift that. It's probably going to cost stuff up front. And if you set it up as you want a Green New Deal and you're going to do it at the expense of Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid, think that through for a second, will you? What's going to happen? It's never going to happen. Because all those other constituents, you're pitting people against each other. If you want universal programs, they're going to cover everybody. If you want universal free college tuition, you want all this stuff, it's going to cost things, yes. Right? But the way that you kind of approach that through this kind of taxation, through the kind of like expenditures, through redistribution strategies and stuff is going to take time. You put PAYGO in the process and it wants everything in this budget now. Right? And that's like dead in the water. So if you have one takeaway from today's podcast, you're listening at this point, it's that you need to contact your representative ASAP. You need to contact your representative ASAP and basically say, listen, especially if you are in a Democratic district and you have someone who leans progressive, right? I'm thinking Susan Wild up in Allentown area, right? Newly elected, right? She'd be a great person to be contacting, right?
Julian.
Yeah, I mean, like anyone who just newly elected to Congress, especially, but anyone who leans or gives any kind of progressive talking points, who's in Congress right now, you need to basically contact him and say no to PAYGO, vote against that PAYGO rule, okay? If you want to know how you do this, all you got to do is go to callyourrep.co, callyourrep.co. It'll come up to a screen and you just enter your address, right? Kind of wherever you're at. It'll tell you who your representative is, right? And say, listen, all you're doing is calling to say no on PAYGO. Tell your representative to vote against the PAYGO rule, right? That you want bold, progressive processes instead. You can also go to the nationalprioritiesproject.org, take action, contact your representative. You get in touch with them there. You can call the U.S. Capitol switchboard at 202-224-3121. That's 202-224-3121. And you can basically say, I'd like to talk to my representative. You can tell them where you're from. If you know who your representative is, tell them who that is. They'll connect you and you can leave a message there. All right. Better yet, right? If you know next time that you see them kind of like around town, you can even visit their office. If you know where it is, stop in and leave a message with their local staff. So that's it. The PAYGO stuff has got me concerned, right? I'm like, once again, I'm just very happy to see that there are so many activists that are down in DC that are that know what's going on, right? Because most of us do not pay attention to these, kind of wonky little things. So there you have it. And so I don't know. Close things out here for segment 1. Sean, what did you think of Terry McAuliffe this week?
Do you really want to know what I think?
Yes, I do.
Such a fucking asshole. No, I mean, like, he called. I mean, he's a Clintonista. I mean, that's it. He's part of the dying Clinton part of the party that is in its death gasp. It's in the death gasps. I mean, they're losing influence over the party. You see what the Progressive Caucus is doing. You see what we're pushing for, and like, he's trying to do is just stand in front of us as not a tsunami, and try to hold it back.
Yep.
I mean, and the fact that like he called, Medicare for all, federal jobs guarantee, and free public higher ed like a dishonest populism. Dude just needs to shut the fuck up and go home.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Like, that's it.
Yep, just be prepared, because this is already, there are the forces at work, right? The centrist Democrats, that's where the money has been, and they're going to send their people out, and they're going to start sounding progressive, but if you just push on their language a little bit, they're not saying that. And I have to give credit to a couple of the shows that Terry McAuliffe was out talking to after he had his little big op-ed in the Washington Post. You had reporters that were pushing back on him, saying, well, okay, wait. She was on one of the MSNBC shows. I forget who it was asking the questions. It was basically saying, okay, so where do you stand on medical for all? And he's like, I'm all for having affordable access to higher education. And she was like, no, but that's not exactly, or higher education, or medical care. She's like, but that's not Medicare for all. The specific requests and the proposals are out there for Medicare for all. And then he starts backpedaling. Right, and so this is where journalists need to start doing their job too as well, pushing on the language of representatives, asking them exactly what they mean, and this is where activists need to be kind of well aware that access is not the same thing as guarantee, right? And I hate the fact the line. I didn't like this when Hillary Clinton was proposing it. I don't like this in the way that that New York provided quote unquote free college tuition in the way that Pennsylvania is proposing it. Right, this is what I don't like about the Pennsylvania promise, is that it kind of caps your benefit. It basically says that yes, if your family makes $125,000 or less, right, then you go free college. If they make $126,000, then nope, you don't get it.
That
right?
means testing bullshit.
It's just dumb. You should be universal programs straight across the board. Because look at it like this: if you're rich. Right, and like what Hillary Clinton said and what Terry McAuliffe said, like, I don't want to be paying for Donald Trump's kids. Do you actually? Well, here's two things. One, do you think Donald Trump or any rich person is going to send their kid to the kind of local public college anyways? No, they're going to try to spend like a college like Ivy League school, private tuition,
or Tufts.
Right, they're going to go. That's what they're going to do. They're going to be fine anyways. Nobody's saying that private colleges can't be private college. You can send your kid to private college if you want to pay for it, and that's what they're going to do, just like they're doing now, right? But let's just say the other thing. So what? What if like a rich person's kid decides that they want to go to public college? Oh my God! Break down the barricades. That would actually be a good thing, right? That's actually the kind of thing that public education was designed to do. And at one time, you'd have people that were kind of like rich and poor and black and white all in one school.
And he's also coming from the point, where this person, McAuliffe's generation, grew up, where going to college was only maybe $1,000 or $2,000 a year of like current U.S. dollars, was maybe $1,000 or $2,000 a year. Like, you can go home, you can pay off your tuition in Christmas break, and that's it. Like, you're done for the year. You don't have to like worry about that stuff. Like.
Right, let's put it like this: is that, and the whole idea here, right?
Like, these people had free higher education their whole entire lives,
right? And let's be clear: the only reason those people are saying that stuff is because they know two things. Number one, they know there's a segment of the population, right? Well, they know that there's income inequality like never before. That the inequality, the 99% and the 1% is a real thing, and so they have to have part of their language has to speak to that kind of class antagonism, right? And so they say, access to, and they're trying to pick a number which basically said that covers most of these people here, right? But in the same move, they said affordable access to higher education or something like this. What they're also trying to do is appeal to the fiscal responsibility stuff, right? To the people who are rich, because they don't want to offend the rich, right? They want to keep them at bay and say, hey, look, yes, they're going to get it, but guess what? It's going to be fine, right? This kind of like both siderism garbage is ridiculous. It's all or nothing. Any program that's worth its weight in gold in this country is something that is universal. K through 12, public higher education. There you go. Right? Medicare. There you go. Social Security. There you go. Right? These are popular programs, and you don't see Terry McAuliffe out there saying they want to means test Social Security. And if he ever did, right, he should renounce any claim to the Democratic Party whatsoever. Right? So let's be clear about that. So this is what's great about the great, bold, progressive moves that are moving forward that people got elected, is that they're arguing for universal programs. They're not splitting hairs in some sort of kind of accountant's back room. They're actually saying, no, look, this is fair for everybody. That because we are all together. So let's do proposals that are all together. Just like a good portion of the world does already. Right? Anyways. So there it is, Sean. Terry McAuliffe. We're going to be seeing a lot more of that little white ghost for a while. I'm sure we will see a lot of them. But anyways, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. When we come back, we're going to talk a little about the PA focus. We'll have a special kind of like appearance by this guy. Daryl Metcalfe. And lots of others. Some good news today. So I want to remind everybody, if you can, become a member of Raging Chicken Press by going to patreon.com. So that's RC Press Today. Become a member for as little as $5 a month. We'll be back right after this quick break with all sorts of fun in the good old Keystone State.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1937. That was the day workers at UAW Local 14 walked out on strike against the Toledo Chevrolet transmission plant. They joined the strike wave against General Motors. The national campaign started in November in Atlanta, Georgia, followed by auto strikes in Kansas City and Cleveland, then intensified in late December with the Great Flint Sit-Down Strike. Local 14 members had experienced General Motors' tricks firsthand during a 1935 strike. When GM couldn't stop unionization efforts at the Toledo plant, they began moving the machinery to non-union facilities in nearby Saginaw, Michigan, and Muncie, Indiana. GM's maneuvers drove Local 14 leaders to fight for a national agreement and help with organizing the national strike wave. Once it began, they were able to effectively shut down their plant. They routinely traveled to Flint during the sit-down to help with strike support and soup kitchen efforts. Many Local 14 members would also help beat back the police assault on sit-down strikers in the coming Battle of Running Bulls at Flint. And as Local 14 members walked out on strike at the Chevy plant that day, the UAW presented its 8 demands to GM. These included national collective bargaining rights, the end to the piecemeal pay system, the 30-hour work week, 6-hour day, time and a half for overtime, a living wage, reinstatement of discharged workers, the establishment of seniority rights, the recognition of the UAW as sole bargaining agent, and shared determination of production speed at all plants. GM finally started to budge a month later. This historic agreement would be signed in late March and set the standard in industries across the country as millions of workers sought to unionize. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
Stop touching me. Stop touching me. Stop touching me.
Chairman, you're yelling at a lady. I wish you would.
President Bradford, I'm not yelling at anybody. I'm telling you, you're out of order. Please stop talking into the microphone now so we can receive our testimony. I'm a heterosexual. I have a wife. I love my wife. Stop touching me. Stop touching me. Beg, don't touch. I'm a heterosexual. I have a wife. I'm a heterosexual.
Yes, Daryl Metcalfe. Don't touch Daryl. He's a heterosexual dag nabbit. Daryl Metcalfe is the gift that keeps on giving, of course, and that gift was a little bit upset this week. Isn't that right, Sean?
Yes, it was. So rumors have been swirling around the Capitol since November, second week of November, after the fresh new member orientation was going through and election leaderships for like the appropriations chair and the caucuses and stuff like that. And we've talked about this here for a bit, that Daryl Metcalfe was aiming to go for the House Judiciary Committee chair. He wanted out at the state government, or I don't know if he wanted it out, but he wanted out, or the leadership wanted him out for the shit he said last year, especially saying we don't run Democrat bills in our committee. We just let everything die here. So he is now out of state government. And, you know, really, like, up until Tuesday, he legitimately believed that he was going to be getting House Judiciary Chair. And the thing is, usually the committee assignments will come out before, right around, like, swearing-in day, or usually beforehand. And Turzai decided to release them the day after. So his leadership election would go unopposed within the Republican Party. And the Democrats put Dermody up for House Speaker, knowing it was going to fail, because, and Bradford said something along the lines of, you know, we might not have the votes, but we know we have an actual leader in our caucus beforehand. And they were taking, speculation says they were taking shots at Turzai and the stuff that happened behind the scenes with him pissing off the caucus. So Turzai gets elected House Speaker, and Daryl Metcalfe doesn't get House Judiciary Chair. Instead, he's going to be on the Energy and Environmental Resources Committee.
It's a pretty powerful committee. I'm sure Daryl was happy about that.
It's not as powerful as having the House Judiciary Committee. And a couple people I know within the House were telling me that lawyers on the Judiciary Committee were actually threatening to quit if Metcalfe actually got that position.
No way.
Yeah. So
we have any sense of how Daryl responded?
I don't know. But I hear he's not happy.
No, I think we can save this sound drop.
Das war ein Befehl! Der Angriffssteiger war ein Befehl!
Yeah, we don't have to get rid of that one quite yet.
But now the Energy and Environmental Resources Committee is going to become a dearth of just shitty legislation for polluters. You know, like some people out there say that the Republicans aren't there's no one out there that is pro-pollution.
Well,
no, the Republican Party's platform is based on pro-pollution. You know, based here in D.C. and down.
What's that?
Based in Harrisburg and D.C.
Yeah,
the Republicans are pro-pollution.
Yep.
With the attacks they're going to be having on the environment, you can't just people. Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird thing, right? On the one hand, we could be happy that Daryl Metcalfe is not ahead of the judiciary, because that would have been like significantly way problematic.
It would be like giving Bull Connor a fucking award. It's like a high-ranking award, which in these times might actually happen.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, now he's at the Energy and Environmental Resource Committee, and that's going to be important, especially because this is a committee that's looking at over the pipelines and natural gas development and all this stuff, right?
Yes,
and we see right now we've had basically a whole bunch of issues that's been going on with different pipelines, like the Mariner East pipeline, for example. There's been all sorts of safety hazards and concerns about pollution, about kind of water resources, and now Daryl Metcalfe is going to be head of that committee.
Yeah, so this is Pennsylvania. So if you think things are good, no, we're still a fucked up state.
Yeah, exactly. Just kick the can down the road, folks. Kick the can down the road.
So Metcalfe is a climate denier. There's no surprise there. I wouldn't expect anything less from him. And people actually had some fun on Twitter with the stuff I was tweeting out about Metcalfe the past couple days.
Oh, did they now?
Yeah, I got a couple messages from people that one of my tweets was up in their Slack channels.
Nice.
At work.
Nice.
Spa was quote tweeting a couple of my tweets and seeing what others.
Awesome. Well, and another kind of, I guess we have to look at the good news stuff. This is a story you've been covering for quite some time now and paying attention to. That I think our keep an eye on story right before, for our last show of 2018 was about whether or not Lindsey Williams was going to get seated.
Yes, so they seated her. Tuesday was swearing-in day. It was actually a really cool experience being down there for that. There's 1,000 people in the Capitol. It was 50 degrees outside. The heat was the city steam was going through the Capitol. The Capitol runs on city steam heat, and it was ungodly hot in there. I think I might have sweated 10 pounds of water weight off my body the whole entire time. But no. So Republicans sat Lindsey Williams without any opposition. What ended up happening was Friday, before swearing-in day last week, We the People, which is associated with the Pennsylvania Budget Policy Center, it's an organization that is with that within that family of organizations. They had stuff set up around the state where they were visiting Senate offices and Tom Killian down in Delaware County, who's one of the last Republicans left in the Southeast. At this point, one of only a handful, and Laughlin up in Erie, who's also another vulnerable Republican. And people are like, if you don't seat them, we're not going to vote for you, but we're going to make it doubly hard for your reelection, and we're going to make sure you don't get reelected. And apparently, Laughlin and Killian's offices contacted Scarnati after these rallies happened, and were like, "Fix this now!"
Yeah.
We don't want to be dealing with the consequences. We were got an uproad battle to preserve our livelihoods down here, and we don't want to make it that much harder.
Well, this is a good thing, right? This is a good thing that basically consequences are being felt, right? That we're at a point, I think we're starting to see a gradual turning back from crazy. Not that crazy is completely gone. From crazy because one, the majorities are not as large.
Oh no, it's going to be crazy. People are already, thinking about having a budget stalemate going well into the fall and the winter again this year. Now that their caucus is more pure, is how they've been quoting it. They're going to be pushing crazy legislation, and they're going to try to be using this stuff as negotiating tools once the budget deadline comes around. Or once they try to fix a budget in the middle of the winter or fall.
Okay, so I won't look on the bright side then. I was going to try. I was actually going to try. I mean,
my sinuses are going right now, so I'm not really in a good mood. I'm in an extra pessimistic mood at the moment. But no, I don't see them. I don't see them moderating themselves at all. If you look at some of the important committees out there, state government, labor and industry, liquor control, and education, where a lot of important bills come through, have gone to people who are extremely conservative, who are with the Commonwealth Foundation, and who are just ideologues.
Oh, good. I thought we were going to be bored there for a while, but it's good to know.
No,
it's good to know. We're not a chance.
It's going to be a fun session. As we were saying in the newsroom the other day. I guess some other house cleaning updates. Paul Costa, the Democrat who lost to Summer Lee. And
so he's helping out on Summer Lee's staff now, right?
No. He was a representative that was endorsed by all the unions, and he got a job with Red Maverick.
And who, pray tell, is Red Maverick?
Red Maverick are the people who ran Scott Wagner's campaign.
So he got a job with a lobbyist group that ran Scott Wagner's campaign.
Yes. So the Red Maverick, there's a few companies underneath that tree. One of them is the financial side, financing elections. The other side is running elections and campaigns and stuff like that. And the other side is the lobbying arm. He's going to be. It looks like he's working with the lobbying arm of things. And they've had their hands in some dirty issues over the past few years. One of the most prominent ones, their client was Camelot Gaming Services from England, and that's who Governor Corbett tried to use to privatize the lottery system.
Right. I remember that.
Yes. So there's a lot of stuff like they have clients like Uber, everyone in the natural gas industry, and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what type of issues Costa might be working on.
Oh, natural gas, I bet.
Well, yeah, they have a lot of natural gas people.
Yep. But we'll see. Yep. Well, hey, look, we know like he was very supportive. Costa was very supportive of the unions for a long period of time. And, so there's that. Right. But
and now he's going to work against them.
Right. So there's that. So do with that what you may. I mean, if you want to argue that
if you look at, like,
everybody got to make a living, man.
So if you look at Red Maverick, I'm going to pull up, just give me a couple seconds. I'm going to pull up their website because I think we should really take a deep dive into their success stories that they have.
Ooh, cool. I love that kind of stuff.
Yes. Here we go. Maverick Strategies. The Mavericks, they call themselves.
The Mavericks. Hey, while you're looking it up, who did get the chair of the Education Committee?
Kurt Sonny out of Western PA, up in Erie.
Kurt Sonny?
Yeah, someone who is just horrible when it comes to education. So
good. I'm just asking purely for, my purposes, whether I'm going to have a job soon or not.
So I do not have the success stories up here right now, but basically Red Maverick, some of the campaigns they've worked on included flipping the Kentucky House Republican. This is some of the things that they talk about. So there we go.
There we go. So there you have it. It's always good to know. It's always good to know what your former legislator was doing and kind of
the revolving door never stops spinning in Harrisburg.
There you go. Gotta love it. Good news though, I guess, is that Governor Tom Wolf is booking the Roots. Is that what you said?
Yes, the Roots. Questlove is going to be at his inaugural ball in a couple weeks.
So you're going to be there, Sean? Is that what you're going to say?
I don't think so. I was able to get tickets the last time. So, if anyone can gift me a free ticket, I will gladly go. But I will not be paying the $100 to go there.
There you go. And
I had a bunch of friends who worked on the Wolf campaign back in 2014, and a couple of them were able to hook me up with tickets to the inaugural ball. It was actually a really fun time.
Well, too bad, Sean.
There was elk burgers there. All Pennsylvania food.
Yeah, I remember he had all the stuff around Pennsylvania all over the place.
Yeah.
And he banned Yingling.
Yeah.
Right? So, good memories. Live vicariously through your experience. So, and the other thing is, breaking news, Farm Show is coming. And John Misick is got it covered. He's been releasing videos of the Farm Show.
Yes, the Farm Show is a tried and true tradition out here in Harrisburg. It is like our state fair, instead it's in the wintertime, and it's indoors in the Farm Show complex. Have you ever been to the Farm Show complex before?
I have never. Well, I've been to the complex. I've never been to the Farm Show.
I've been to the Farm Show like twice when I've been out here just to get some of the food. I might actually consider going there now that I'm not bartending anymore and I have a lot of free time. So we'll see. Yesterday they released the butter sculpture.
That's good.
There was no Gritty. I was trying to pull a campaign for having Gritty. That
would have been great.
A butter sculpture of Gritty incorporated into it, but it didn't happen.
Oh well. Yeah. No. But you said that Misick released a video of some little baby pigs running around, right?
Yeah, being brought into the complex.
Yeah. So actually, I have to say, it's always fun reading Misick's writing around the Farm Show, right? It's a combination. My read on it's always been the combination of kind of like, feel good reporting with just a little bit of sarcasm, right? Just a little bit of shade going there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess it's like a nice little like break in the action for stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's like, all right, I guess we gotta have fun going to the Farm Show. I mean,
yeah.
Pretty much like you're in. This is like outside of the gun show, which is right after this, the NRA gun show.
Yeah.
Like these are the two biggest like events that come into Harrisburg every year.
Great. That's great. So cool. All right, so get up to the farm show, everybody, because Pennsylvania does not have a state fair then.
No, we don't. It's the farm show.
This is the first time that's ever really occurred to me since you just said that it's like kind of like our state fair. I'm like, oh, that's right. Because I used to go to the New York State Fair, right? I used to go to the New York State Fair growing up and things like this, and it wasn't called the farm show. It was called the New York State Fair because that's what it was.
Oh, it
wasn't just farms. It was other stuff.
Some breaking news.
What's that?
Brad Rowe has been appointed to the PASHE Board of Governors.
Get out of here. Brad Rowe is one of the most despicable human beings from the Erie area, especially when it comes to education. He is like the most, let's say he's in the running for the most anti-public higher education, anti-union position in the Republican Party.
So, whatchamacallit?
Well, at least now we know where the show's going to be.
APSCUF put a press release out. Basically said Rowe has been a harsh critic of the state system administrators at American University administration and APSCUF, a frequent poster of anti-system diatribes on his Facebook page. Today we posted about his appointment. He wrote the board is kind of like a school board, but rather than operating like a school district operates, it operates the 14 state-owned colleges.
Brad Rowe. So to paraphrase, let's impeach the motherfucker.
Here's Ken Mash's statement. It is true that the representative has said some very insulting things about the faculty in the past, but we trust with his position he will develop a more comprehensive view.
Give me a freaking break.
That what our universities do and the critical role of the faculty and coaches in advancing success.
All I can do is I hope that the communications people of APSCUF gave that to MASH and said, no, you got to sign this. No, you're going to sign this and you're going to put this out. Because listen, there is like if that's a politics statement that's got to be put out, that's fine. But if there is anybody whatsoever, any faculty member or any staff member of the entire PASHE system who believes an ounce of those words, you're a fool. So let's be clear. Brad Rowe is an enemy of the people when it comes to public higher education. Right? Period.
We also hope that the representative will be a partner in finding constructive solutions to the challenges that
I can't listen to this, Sean. Stop it. I cannot.
High-quality health care, higher education for all Pennsylvanians.
I cannot stand that shit. And I understand why it has to be done, but I freaking can't stand it because it's
trust me,
lies.
The same stuff happened with some of the environmental groups this week with Daryl Metcalfe being appointed to the chair. I was just like,
I know it's got to be said. I get it, right? But it's just like it's such a freaking waste because it's never ever going to happen. It's like saying, I know. It's like, again, I know that this. No, I'm not even going to go there. I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to stop right now because I can just go on this forever, and I'm going to stop. I'm just saying that Brad Rowe, no, it's not. It's just Brad Rowe is the enemy of the people when it comes to public higher education. When it comes to most things, actually. So leave it at that. So get on board, right? Take APSCUF's statement as the perfunctory statement that has to come out when someone like Brad Rowe gets put on there. Right? But we all know full well that's never, ever going to happen, that Brad Rowe is going to continue to be an absolute idiot, jerk, whatever, enemy of the people when it comes to higher education. There you have it. All right, well, there you have it. So that brings us to close of the PA Focus, and we're going to come back with today's last call. We got just kind of a couple little space news. Maybe Sean will tell us a little bit more about Vice and some beer releases. So this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We'll be back right after this quick break. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. For the past 7 years, Raging Chicken Press has brought pull-no-punches, progressive reporting and commentary to the interwebs. Our long-form investigative pieces, stories that no access journalist wants to touch, or rollicking weekly podcasts strive to advance progressive movements and perspectives rooted in the struggles happening across the country or down the street. We've broken national stories and caused our share of discomfort in the halls of power. If we want a progressive future, we need progressive media. And you can help support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today. Become a member of Raging Chicken Press for as little as $5 a month. Simply go to patreon.com/rcpress and choose your membership level. We need to make sure to keep the movement in the media and the media in the movement. Best way you can do that is to become a member of Raging Chicken today by going to patreon.com/rcpress. Thank you for your energy, your encouragement, and your support. Keep up the fight. Welcome back. Today's Last Call on Off the Coop podcast. I've just got a couple quick things here. Sean's sinus infection is really taking hold, and he is definitely trailing off here. So we're going to try to keep it short today, but I just keep on talking, and now Sean is like collapsing on the other end of this thing. So just a couple quick things. Really cool news when it comes to space stuff. China landed, was the first ever lander ever to kind of touch down on the dark side of the moon. And it's pretty amazing to see pictures coming back from the dark side of the moon. Of course, we don't normally see that because it is on the opposite side, so we never get to see it. So it's pretty cool that it's there. This was a major achievement, and apparently it's landed in this kind of 115-mile wide crater called the Von Karman, I don't know, it's a crater. But apparently it's a really deep crater that will allow the lander to actually study the internal workings of the moon. And because they're looking back at kind of like how the moon formed and all this kind of stuff, and what's the full composition of the moon and all that, they're going to be looking into that. But regardless, this is a pretty significant achievement, especially for the Chinese space program. And I want to give a plug right now, too, as well for my favorite author, science fiction writer, Kim Stanley Robinson, has just released a new book called Red Moon. I have a signed copy of it. And I'm in the middle of reading it now. And the Red Moon part of it is about China as kind of taking a leading role in terms of the colonization of the moon. And a lot of it, at least what I've got so far, about halfway through the book, about this internal kind of Chinese politics stuff. And Kim Stanley Robinson is notable for, he's one of the best political analysts out there. And to read the book is also reading about some of the kind of possible trajectories of kind of U.S. and Chinese culture, but you're seeing a lot of it from internal from China. So definitely a book to check out. It's called Red Moon by Kim Stanley Robinson. A really, really cool book. The other cool space news this week is that NASA's New Horizons spacecraft visited Ultima Thule. That's a Kuiper Belt object. The Kuiper Belt exists beyond Pluto, right, where it's kind of like a whole bunch of little planetesimals or microplanets or mini planets that are kind of floating around there. The cool thing about this is the most distant object from the sun to get a pass by and get photographed by a spacecraft, which is pretty cool. Why this stuff is of interest is because stuff in the Kuiper Belt, as well as some of the stuff in the asteroid belt, is stuff that has is kind of left over from the foundation of the formation of the solar system, and people don't know a whole lot about it, right? And it's stuff that's virtually untouched since that stuff all kind of came together and formed. So that's kind of really cool. And we don't know a lot about these objects out there. So the pictures that came back, it looked kind of like an hourglass tilted on its side. Not exactly, kind of almost like two balls halfway kind of formed together. Like they've almost been like attracted gravitationally and kind of stuck together, and they kind of like stayed in that kind of like figure eight for I don't know, like billions of years. So that's kind of really cool that just happened. So check out the pictures on there. They're posted up online. And I've got the other thing I should say about that, though, too, as well, that when it comes to, this is actually a side, but let me go into that. So I've closed that out. If you remember, Shanahan, I think his name was, right? Shanahan was the, let me get this, the star of the Space Force, right? So remember, Trump's Space Force was being run by Shanahan. What was his title? His Deputy Secretary Shanahan, right? So he was a Deputy Secretary of the Department of Defense, right? Now he was a former Boeing executive. right? So Patrick Shanahan, that's his name. Patrick Shanahan has been at the forefront of putting Trump's Space Force into being. The cool thing about this now is that he is now going to be the new acting secretary. He's going to be. Yeah, he's the new chief acting defense secretary, Shanahan. Right, so he was basically someone who was in charge of working on the Space Force stuff. They put all the stuff together. That after you had Mattis leave, they plugged this dude in. Right, so that's always kind of fun stuff. So I love it. So former Boeing executive is now running defense. That's great. He has no military experience whatsoever. That's good. Anyways, the last thing I got for you is we got a Free Will bottle release on tomorrow. That's Saturday, January 5th. And it's called Clifford the Big Red Quad. And that's a collab with their friends down at Blue Dog Tavern. It's a farmhouse quad aged in Marcello wine puncheons with our Amarina cherries and Brett for 11 months. And it's bottle conditioned for another 11 months. And they say it has notes of cherry skins, leather, caramel, pipe, tobacco, and prunes. They're only coming out in the 500 milliliter bottles, and it comes in at 12.5% ABV, so it's a little hefty. But they'll have it available tomorrow, and they're gonna have they'll be on tap too as well at both locations, and the bottle release at both locations. So check out that stuff at Free Will. So Sean, you've made it through. Anything else you want to kind of give us for the end? You want to give us a quick review of Vice or any other cool stuff?
I got some AOC news real quick.
Oh, AOC news. Great. Always good.
Always AOC news. She just posted a video on her Twitter account of her dancing into her office door saying, I hear the GOP thinks women dancing are scandalous. Wait till they find out congresswomen dance too. Have a great weekend, everyone.
That's awesome. That's
and
awesome.
Then she was on the news this morning, or she's going to be on 60 Minutes pretty soon, or she was on 60 Minutes, talking about the Green New Deal.
Nice.
And she said, but once you get to the tippy tops on your 10 millionth, sometimes you see taxes as high as 60% or 70%. That doesn't mean 10 million are taxed at an extremely high rate, but it means that you climb up this ladder, you should be contributing more. And she wants taxes up to 60 to 70% to fund the Green New Deal on the uppermost tax tiers.
That's exactly the way it should be. And here's the thing. This is what I always try to kind of say is what we got to understand about
these are the uber rich are the ones who have benefited off of climate change the most.
Right.
And have caused climate change the most.
But let's put it.
Planet.
But we also got to make sure that I think I'm serious. Every single time I think we got to hit this home is that when she's talking about 60 to 70% tax bracket, the upper bracket. Right? That doesn't mean the tax is on the people. It's on a segment of their income. Right? So, for example, I'm just making these numbers up right now, but say for everything from $0 to $50,000, right, is taxed at 1% rate. The minute you start making $51,000, right, the money that is above $50,000 gets taxed at a higher rate, right? It doesn't mean that your overall, well, yes, your overall tax will kind of like increase if you're making at the upper ends of those things. But the whole idea is that you're taxing segments of income. So that 60% tax isn't taxed on the entirety of the income. It's only on that percentage of the upper tier. So in other words, maybe $1 million or more. Right.
And these were these tax rates used to be back in the 50s and 60s.
Right. Well, it used to be up. I mean, when it was during Eisenhower, it was as at 90%.
Yeah.
Right. And so the whole idea back then, it was a different ethos. The idea was you get to a certain point and you don't need any more money. Right. That it becomes a social ill after a certain point. So the option was given. Say, look, we're going to tax it at 90%, and you get two options, right? One, you tax it at 90%, right? Or you get to have a certain percentage of that, which you can choose and donate that to kind of social goods, right? And you get a tax break for that, but you're still going to pay that rate that's up there. So if you basically do that, it's the same idea with kind of lifting the cap on Social Security, right? Let everybody pay like all the way through. The program's fine. When you're talking about taxation, you're talking about, say, the more that you make, once you start making beyond absurd amounts of money, right, that money at the top, right, million plus is going to get taxed at a higher rate, and that can help fund this stuff, right? That not only is that something that is just, right, but it also helps to kind of foster social cohesion, right? Because basically it says that, look, we recognize we're going to give people the freedom, quote unquote, this is how these people like to talk, They'll go out and make a ton of money if that's what they want. But at a certain point, we got to recognize that it becomes actually counterproductive. So that's got to go back into the system that we can fund the things that we need. Right? That's it. It's the way we stay away from feudalism. Right? And that's why we're on the precipice of it now. So cool. So check that out, everybody. So
I got some other cool, interesting news.
All right, let's hear it.
So I have access to Amazon Prime now.
You have access to it. Like, is
Yes,
it affordable access to Amazon Prime, or is it universal access? You're provided access to that. Is that what he's just saying?
So my mom, like how I provide everyone's my passwords for the Netflix and all.
Yeah.
My mom got into Amazon Prime over the past couple months, and I'm using this time to now watch Man in the High Castle.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, so I'm on the middle of the second season of that.
Good.
And I made my first Amazon Prime purchase the other day.
Oh God, do you feel really good?
Yeah, I do. I bought a schmog.
A schmog?
Yeah.
What is a schmog?
A kafaya.
Oh.
They're called schmogs. Yeah, so I bought a kafaya from Hirbali out in an actual Palestinian-made kafaya, which is
there you go. Awesome.
And I bought it. I need a like an actual like scarf, because like this part it doesn't get covered, but with the coats and everything. Mm-hmm. So it actually provides a lot. It's actually pretty good. I've worn it around a couple times already.
I used to have one all through college. That's all I wore.
Yeah, I'm not like walking around with like the kafaya on, like walking as like a.
You're not pretending to be
like
Palestinian,
hipster.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah, but no, it's actually it's something I've always wanted, been interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting.
Oh, good. And so what I just got to ask you. So does it say on your hat?
Oh, this is a Pizza Boy hat.
Oh, what does it say?
It says Frontside City. So that's
Frontside City.
So it's an outline of Pizza Boy and the Harrisburg skyline.
Gotcha. That's a cool hat. I couldn't read the. I don't think I've ever seen that hat before.
Yeah, I woke up this morning, kind of had a bad hair day, so I just threw a hat on.
So and that's a place you used to work, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah, that's
maybe for like 2 years of my life. I kind of like blacked that part of my life out.
Yeah. Well, nonetheless, it's a cool hat. So,
thank you.
All right. Any? So you got thumbs up, thumbs down for Vice?
It's really good. It's worth seeing.
We're seeing. There you have it, folks.
It's different. Like the format of it is different. It doesn't really focus on Dick Cheney's role in the in office, but more or less like a progression of his life going into politics up and through present day, pretty much.
So it's basically a story of redemption about really how he's really a good guy underneath.
Yeah, he's like redeeming himself and everything.
I don't think there's any redemption for that dude, man.
No,
that dude's burning in hell.
Like one of the scenes, it stops like right in the middle of it, like right in the middle of the movie, how he like got out of public office and it's like, and Dick Cheney lived happily ever after and never went back into public office again. We're joking. Like the screen went blank in the middle of the movie, and then like things come out. I was like, no, we're kidding. And it really got then it got into the stuff he was doing with the.
And what I understand from in the movie is that he's or Lynn Cheney actually gets a very prominent role, right?
Yes.
In that because it's funny because Lynn Cheney, I knew who Lynn Cheney was before I knew who Dick Cheney was. Right, because of her role in terms of like the cultural wars and things like this, and in kind of like the attacks on education. Right, but so pretty cool. If I had to give 2 TV recommendations that are out there now, one there's the RBG, which is a documentary on Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That is I haven't seen it yet. It is on my new watch list. I've had like 3 people in the past 2 days tell me that it was awesome. I'm going to watch that, and it's about sex. That is a movie about Ruth Bader Ginsburg that was written by, I think, her nephew, I believe, nephew or grandson, one or the other, and that was just released, and that is kind of out in theaters now, too, as well. So both of those are supposed to be pretty awesome. So go out and see them. The documentary is available on Netflix now, I believe, so check it out. Anything else for the good of the order, Sean?
No, nothing really going on. If you're in Harrisburg, go to the farm show this weekend, I guess.
Go to the farm show. Here, piggy. Yeah. Well, and Sean, I hope you feel better, man. And if it turns out that goes south on Monday, at least you know you'll be able to go to the doctors because you got health insurance.
I know. I have health care for the first time in like ever.
How about that? Thanks, Obama.
Yeah. Got them trashing you for a while, but
yeah, well, there you have it. All right, everybody, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Want to thank you all for tuning in. Hope you had a happy and safe holiday season. Welcome to 2019, no time to waste. 2020 is right around the corner. And we're going to be, and the fun in state politics is just about to kick off. So lots to come. Thanks for tuning in. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. We'll talk to you all next week. Happy 2019. See ya!
People love you. And you win. Woo! And when your son looks at you and says, Mama, look, you won, bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't. Because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach the motherfucker.